I'd like to call the Board of Education meeting for Tuesday, January the 16th to order. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, first on our agenda is the approval of the agenda.
Move to approve the agenda for January 16th, 2018 regular meeting as presented.
Second. There's a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the approval of the consent agenda items.
Move to approve the consent agenda item as presented.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the public participation. We'll move right on to the report of the superintendent, Dr. Lindsay.
Good evening, everyone. You'll have in your packet some notes of appreciation that we'll go through those individually. Next item under report of the superintendent, we will have a school board election on April 3rd, 2018. We have two positions open. Those seats are currently held by David Bova and Joan Hook. They have filed for re-election. And also filing is Sam J. Ewing. So those names will appear in the ballot, on the ballot in that order. David Bova, Joan Hook, and Sam J. Ewing. Again, that school board election is Tuesday, April 3rd, 2018. Filing did end today at 5 p.m. Filing has ended. Reminder about pre-kindergarten and kindergarten registration coming up at St. John Elementary April 7th and at Bluesdale Elementary April 14th. Parents can begin calling March 5th to schedule those appointments. We do encourage our parents to make those appointments. It's a good process for their child to go through. It also helps us in trying to determine staffing needs and those sorts of things for the coming school year. So. Again, the date that you can begin to call for that is March 5th. I think what I want to do now is go ahead and move to principal reports. We have a little different format for principal reports starting tonight, and I think I'll let Dr. Taylor kind of give a brief explanation, and then it looks like Lori is all excited and ready to go. But, Dr. Taylor.
So we've been discussing in admin meetings. I know Mrs. Diesel and Mrs. Zusman cover a lot of the same things, and some of it gets redundant at times. And we want to share with you the important stuff that's going on in our building, but we also want to enter the 21st century and maybe start doing some things that we can share with the community as well, with media, and that they can display on their sites as well. So we put our heads together and came up with some Google slides, and really all I did was share some formats and make 5 slides for each building. And so tonight we're going to try that for the first time. It is going to go progression from Bloomsdale to elementary to middle school to high school. So we're stuck in that format with this because of the way the slides are arranged. But I hope you enjoy it. I hope it's more concise and less redundant. There is some overlap, I did see. But what it allows you to do is it's shared with all of us. So we can all be working on it at the same time, and I can see what they're doing, and they can see what I'm doing. Oh yeah, I forgot to put that in mine, or I don't want to cover that again, or stuff like that. So it allows us to collaborate when we're not in the same room too. So, Lori?
You said we're stuck in the same format, but I know how to use slides. Well, at Bloomsdale Elementary, we really haven't had a lot of school since we met last time. I'm going to talk about some Christmas things. And we've done all the same normal monthly events. We've had birthday books for birthday students, Wall of Fame papers, Silver Spoon Awards. That's for students that show respect and good manners in the cafeteria. And they get an extra little snack on Friday. The custodian, Miss Debbie, notices that they clean up after themselves and show respect. We do the Golden Trash Can Award for clean classrooms. That's the custodians pay attention to that too, and they get to nominate those classrooms for those awards. We do attendance awards for best attendance, that's for the grade level for the week. We do positive office referrals. And then something neat we did this year at Christmas, we did candygrams, and that was Miss Grine and Miss Schleter, they were in charge of that. And it was really cute, the kids got to buy a candy cane and send a little message to another student or a teacher in the building, and they got to fill out their little message, that was cute. But we got a black light dance because we sold 1,500 of those candy canes. And when they first proposed that to me, I was like, sure, we'll do a black light dance. I didn't think there would be any way they'd sell 1,500, but they did. We had all 325 kids in the room for a black light dance, that was fun. Then next we had our PTO sponsored Christmas parties. The PTO does a wonderful job of getting parents for each classroom. They have headroom parents and they have parent volunteers. And really the teachers and myself, we don't have to do anything. The parents organize it and plan games and bring all the snacks and everything. So thank you for that, parents. Wanted to talk a little bit about our student lead roles with Leader and Me. We have welcome leaders, and every group is doing a different project. It could be a community service project. It could be something to help better the school. Like welcome leaders, they help with Veterans Day. They help create signs to welcome veterans. They welcome parents at parent-teacher conference. They are starting something new where they're going to be taking new students on tours around the building and welcome the new students. They're going to show them like the cafeteria and the gym and introduce them to the nurse and all those things. Helping Hands, they have student tutors that help the students in the morning. The kindergarten students, they help letter ID and letter sound and number identification. Kids of Character, that's what it says. They're trying to spread kindness and show good character in their group. We have Mighty Men, and they do all kinds of different projects. They taught them how to barbecue, and they barbecued all the hot dogs for a family fun night, which was really fun. Women of Worth, that's Miss Schleter and Miss Rice, and they're teaching the girls to respect each other and help lift each other up, because women need help doing that. Sunshine Splashers, they're writing letters to like nursing homes and to their families and to other students in the school. Broadcast Bunch, they do a video every week, and we put it on the cafeteria we put it on the TVs in the cafeteria, and we also put it on our Facebook page. Student Spotlighters, they're doing a timeline of all of our activities throughout the year. So they've created something from August to December, and it's hanging in the hallway. Copy Captains, they help get everything ready for each event, like they helped with the Christmas musical, they made all the copies for that. We're having a Leader and Me night, they're getting all the copies ready for that. Student Secretaries, they help with the mail, they help answer the phone. They even called Country Mart and ordered the fruit plates for kindergarten registration. They're teaching them how to be secretaries. Kitchen crew, they're teaching them how to be leaders in the kitchen. They served cookies at the Christmas program. That's them in that top picture with the chef's hats on. The Green Team and Nature Crew, they're right now talking about birds and making bird feeders for winter birds. The Art Leaders, they're making ceiling tiles. They helped with all the Christmas play decorations. Anything, they made backdrops for the Drug Awareness Week, Red Ribbon Week. And the Patriotic Leaders, they do the pledge on the intercom every morning. They help fold the flag when Miss Debbie takes it down on Wednesdays, and they help put it up on Wednesday mornings. The Cleaning Crew, they have been hitting all the common areas like the handrails and the locker handles and all that, especially during flu season, and cleaning those good for everybody. So we're really busy with all our lead groups. And then, and then the last one, I don't know if you've ever seen this, but this is why we went into Leader and Me, because it talks about leadership as a whole with the students and the environment. And then it talks about our culture. And it's just like our learning environment, what it looks like, what it sounds like. And then it also helps us with academics, where we're going to set goals as a school, goals as a grade level, a classroom, and personal goals. So that's just an outline of the things that we're working on with Leader and Me. That's all we have at Mercer this month.
What's neat about this, not only are you telling us some of that stuff, you tell us not all the same stuff, and now we get to see it.
That's right. Well, Lori and I, good evening, first of all, and Lori and I collaborated a little, and I was so excited that she put those leader and me pieces in because, oops, gotta learn how to work this guy. Okay, because our building is, of course, kind of paralleling what Bloomsdale's doing. This exact target sheet is what our staff has been working on also, and just last week, we all met as groups and looked at that, and each grade level and subject area completed a rubric and discussed in small groups where they felt like we were on the journey and where our needs were, and where we need to pick it up a little and where we're feeling pretty good at. And on January 30th, our coach is coming to work with us and get our action teams in place. So they kind of let you take the journey at your own pace and in your own way, but there are definitely goals that you work towards and master each time. So I was glad Lori put that in. Okay, here's our building, St. Genevieve Elementary. Well, we celebrated right away when we came back to school in January with our Students of the Month. Mrs. Greminger kind of leads this up every month, and we recognize the a student from each classroom. We have 26 homerooms for their citizenship, and they have lunch with Mrs. Greminger and myself and Mrs. Gegg, and they get a pin and a certificate. And what's really nice is most classrooms vote. They vote on themselves. They look at whatever the characteristic is that month, be it kindness or tenaciousness or whatever the word is, and they vote. And so it's kind of cute. They recognize the leaders among themselves. So those were our December leaders. A part of the Leader in Me philanthropy or mission is philanthropy and paying it forward and giving to others. And so a few of our lead families did some pretty neat projects in December. In the upper left-hand corner, Mrs. Noley and Mrs. Wibbenmeyer organized their families into a project to collect goods and monies for the local pet shelter, and they collected 240 collars and dog jackets and bags of dog food and cat food and all kinds of things, as well as quite a bit of money. And so they donated that to the local animal shelter. To the right is Mrs. Wilson's kindergarten class. Mrs. Greminger has a coin drive every year to help fund the Shop with the Cop program. And this little kindergarten class donated $298 worth of change. So the building as a whole collected over $1,200, but this little group really went crazy with giving. So, and that money went to the Shop with the Cop. In the bottom left-hand corner is Mrs. Bowman and her family. They decided to do the shoebox project for Operation Child through Samaritan's Purse, and they brought in toys and hygiene items and school supplies, and many of the kids who received those shoe boxes, that's the only gift they get for Christmas. So those kids were really excited about their project. And on the bottom right-hand corner, Mrs. Seltzer's class developed a read box in December and brought books in and organized them and shelved them. First of all, they wrote a very persuasive letter why we needed this, and then we want to thank True Value in town. They donated the paint for the bookshelf, and Mrs. Seltzer rehabbed it, and so our read box has been popular. Kids give and take books all throughout the day. It's just a give and a take. So those are a few projects in our building. As many of you knew, we said goodbye to Miss Mary Jo Holland in December, and the building really had a lot of sad but happy times with that. The kids made a lot of goodbye videos, and I want to point out that Mrs. Beckett did a wonderful job of putting that all together, and we played it in the cafeteria through the lunches and really enjoyed a lot of great memories with Mary Jo. And then our courtesy committee, which is Mrs. Jokerst and Mrs. Drury and Mrs. Seltzer, did a lot of really fun things that week to help say goodbye to Mary Jo and relive the great time she spent with us. So we hope Mary Jo's enjoying retirement, and we miss her. We had, on December 20th, we had DARE graduation, and as you can see, we've got a pretty good-sized crop of 5th graders this year, and so there they all are. The essay winners, I am going to do a shout out to just a few of our kids who did an exceedingly great job on their essays. Sadie Preminger, Jaden Rickman, Abby Boyer and Shay Coleman were the first place essay winners, and they read their essays that night. And also finalists included Autumn Werner, Brooklyn Johnson, Caden Hook, Damian Dickerson, Drake Wybrecht, Morgan Smith, Carter Worley, and Lexi Warren. So they had a good time that night and did a great job throughout the program. And I want to thank Officer Clark for that. She does an outstanding job with the kids. We also, in December, had a really neat time in Lindsay's book nook there. You guys might remember that in the summer or late spring, Mr. and Mrs. Webb made a donation to our library. And so one of the things that they noted that they loved when they were both in the buildings and their grandchildren and children loved were the Judy B. Jones books. Well, those are still crazy popular. So one of the pictures is the bottom picture is all the children holding new hard copy Judy B. Jones. And then the top picture is some of our older children holding up nonfiction books, which we were really in need of, some biography and other nonfiction topics. So that was a fun day in our library, and new supplies came. And then a few things just to hit on PD. We had a really neat PD day on the 2nd, and it provided, for the elementary crew at least, invaluable collaboration time. Our Bloomsdale teachers and my teachers just don't get together very often. So it was really a great day, and they got together and did some of the things outlined there. They worked in kindergarten and worked on a digital report card together, and Mr. Bowman came over. Pre-K, early childhood, and kindergarten met and talked about the transition. All of the grades collaborated on their MRI strategies, assessments, standards. Preschool worked on portfolios, and special ed got together and worked on all their processing. So it was a busy day for all the teachers. And then some other great things coming up in January. We're also going to have some extended Google training with Mrs. Toombs. That day, Tiff Wolk and Nate Kingery worked on MANT with both teams. And our Title I coaches continue to do great work. Mrs. Fritsch and Mrs. Keeper and Ms. Goff with our elementary teachers with math and literacy. And that wraps it up for St. Elementary.
Good evening, everyone. St. John Middle School, we haven't had a lot of school, still a lot going on, but we haven't had a lot of school recently. This is one I missed from a couple months ago, and I wanted to pull it out because these two were nominated and then confirmed to the Beluga Global Student Council. And what that means is they were nominated, and then they had to write a letter, and then according to their letters, determine whether they were confirmed or not. This is our second and third members of the Global Student Council, and what they will do is once a month they will write an article on some global topic, and they will submit it, and then Beluga, the website, will publish it, and it will be published all over the world. So I wanted to give a shout out to these two, Desiree Powell and Christian Kiefer, for receiving that honor. That was, I think, the end of November, and I failed to put that on the December board report, so I wanted to touch base about that. On Tuesday, January 2nd, we kind of did something that Mrs. Diesel touched on, Build Your Own PD Day. This was a PD day where teachers went on a Google sheet and wrote down ideas on what they would like to have professional development on. And it was anything from share your favorite professional development book and ideas that you get out of that book to let's talk about curriculum. It's time to start getting organized for second semester. Let's talk about formative assessments. Let's talk about our summative assessment data and get that. There was a wide variety of stuff. On the right side for the middle school where it says afternoon sessions, those were the sessions that we offered. And teachers had to submit before January 2nd a plan on what they were going to do that day. And it was pretty fluid. I mean, if Nancy had to, I think Nancy canceled one of her sessions and had to go to the elementary and do something, and then they just filled in something else. But the teachers in my building were so excited about getting to do something that was important to them, and that administration was listening and saying, okay, what do you guys need? What do you want? So they were very appreciative. I think they had a fantastic time. Mr. Guerin spoke that morning. He was the 2017 National Digital Principal of the Year, and he just had a positive message about connecting with students and continuing the positive direction with school culture. So that was a fantastic day. I'm interested to see the survey results when we get the survey results.
Me too.
Mr. Oldham has been selected for the Teachers for Global Classrooms program. This is not a scholarship, it is starts with an F. Anyway, he's been selected to this program. There were 76 teachers from 31 states selected for this program. And I think hundreds and hundreds of teachers applied for this program. So what it consists of is he has to do an online course next month in February, I think it's February 13th through the 15th. He's traveling to Washington, D.C., paid for by this program. Ms. Giesler's going with him, paid for by this program. They are going to connect, he's going to connect with teachers that he'll be traveling, that will also be traveling around the world. She's going to connect with other administrators who are following their teachers. He just told me last week that his destination is confirmed. It's in Morocco, which is on the continent of Africa. I had to look that up. That was the one he was wanting. There were several sites, and you don't get to choose. They just kind of assign it to you. But he was excited about going to Morocco. He is planning to Skype in from, I don't know what the time change is. I don't know how he's planning on doing this. But he is going to Skype in. Mr. Kreitler is currently teaching in his room, so he's going to be in there. But he is going to Skype in and stay connected with our kids here. I think that's a 6-week program where he's going to be gone for 6 weeks, and it's all paid for. So I want to congratulate him and let you know about that. We also finalized our first semester lead groups. And in doing that, you don't want the lead groups to go away that the kids really enjoy doing, but on the other hand, you don't want to force a teacher to continue with the lead group if you're not interested in, because then it gets stale. So what we do is we put out a survey to the students, and we make sure we have teachers that are still on board and excited about those lead groups. So here are our lead groups for second semester. The Go Fly a Kite was a first semester lead group as well, and they actually built paper kites with, I can't remember the wood that they used, that balsa wood, I think. They build a paper kite, well then they take it to the next level, and then they build a kite with, it's a different fabric, and then they apply it. So it's a little sturdier, and I don't think they use balsa wood, I think they use something heavier. So they progress, and it teaches the kids, how they did it initially, and then how can you improve upon. And so the kids are kind of doing some STEM stuff too, with figuring out what works, what doesn't work. Speak Geek is a new one. Mr. Elders put in a proposal for Speak Geek, and it's to use all the geek terminology that's on Sheldon Cooper. What's that, Sheldon? No, the Big Bang Theory. When you go to Comic-Con, all the terminology used at Comic-Con. So he's, I'm going to say it in public, but Mr. Elder's kind of a geek. So he thought it would be a good idea. He has the terminology, and kids were excited about heading in that direction and using that terminology with an adult. So we had a bunch of kids on board. I do want to give kudos to our faculty. We called a meeting to assign students, and this was one of my visions with the middle school whenever I became principal. I don't care what kids get involved in, as long as they get involved. I want every kid involved in something. This allows us to accomplish that because kids are given these names, and then they sign up for 3. They have their top 3, their first, their second, and their third choice. We have some kids putting not interested, not interested, not interested. And then Ms. Giesler gets that list, and they get to go visit with her, and then she gets to help them pick a group. So every student in the middle school attends one of these lead groups. And yeah, they might be a little hesitant at first, and some of them want to change, and she makes them do it for a couple weeks, and if they want to change, we'll talk about it. So it's not set in stone. But once the kids get in there and they start connecting with the teacher who's excited about whatever lead group they're in, then their attitude starts to change a little bit, and they get a little on board. So those are our lead groups for second semester. Extracurricular activities, band and choir finalized their first semester with fantastic performances. Chess Club is finishing up its inaugural year. They are going to go to Park Hills during the 8th grade conference basketball tournament and compete with West County and Fredericktown it's non-conference because there's not 5 schools associated with it, but it's kind of a conference event. It's going to be our first tri-match. And our kids are doing fantastic. I have to admit that one student even beats me in chess when I go in, and I'm a little disgruntled about it. I keep going back in for more punishments. First year at chess club has been fantastic. Boys and girls basketball are also finishing up. We have 7th grade hopefully finishing up this week because we are getting back in session. And then 8th grade will hopefully finish up next week. And that's the middle school.
Okay, for the high school, I'd like to start out with 2 very impressive people, 2 very impressive accolades. On the left there, we have Dr. Mercer, who has been named to the Board of Directors of the Missouri School Safety Association. He'll represent all public, private, and post-secondary institutions in Pike, Lincoln, Warren, Washington, St. Francis, St. Genevieve, and Perry counties. So that's a huge thing, and again, it's state-level recognition. And as if that isn't impressive enough, Dr. Etherton there on the left side was recently elected to serve as an officer for the National Association of Teachers of Family and Consumer Sciences. Well, at the past December meeting at the organization in Nashville, Dr. Etherton was elected to serve as the president-elect for the 2018-19 year and as president of the national organization in 2019-20. So she gained national acceptance. And, you know, really to have any member of your staff achieve that level is extremely impressive. And to have 2 of them that sit on state and national boards is just insane. And it just speaks volumes to how great our staff overall is. And I congratulate them and thank them for representing us very well. We have Miss Allie Grass, who was named the Rotary Club Student of the Month. Normally I don't talk about the details, but I thought given our department that was here tonight, it would be appropriate. Allie's been in the top 10% all 4 years in high school. In addition to these amazing accolades, she received the Chemistry Award in 2015-16 and was our Patched Overalls Experience winner in 2016-17. Mr. Brandon O'Haver is the Elk Student of the Month, and as well as also being ranked 5th in his class, he received the award in Integrated Science and also CP American History and German 1. So I guess the takeaway here is if you get a science award, you're destined for great things. So again, I compliment both the department and those individual students. FCCLA, big month, they just keep chucking through. Emily Epp, a member of the FCCLA, was recently elected to serve as regional leader position. This is our Region 6, which I'll get this out eventually, I promise. Region 6, which comprises Bollinger, Cape, Iron, Madison, Mississippi, Perry, Scott, St. Francis, and St. Genevieve counties. And I wanted to list them this year because the impressive thing for me with what Dr. Etherton's been doing with FCCLA, every year we have somebody that gets one of those positions. And I mean, it's just so difficult to do, and she keeps knocking them out and keeps getting them on the state level. So again, kudos to Emily and Dr. Etherton for their hard work. The other thing I did want to say about FCCLA, because I just thought this was cute, 3 students at St. Genevieve High School created a social media campaign December 18th through the 20th called Stress is a Pest, which gives us tips and information about healthy ways to relieve stress. The project is part of the Student Star event and addresses ways for teens and elementary students to deal with stress in healthy ways. Those students were Jane LeClaire, Grace Robinson, and Emily App. The students handed out stress balls to St. Genevieve High School during final exam week and gave flyers regarding informational tips for parents of elementary students. Now, the reason why I think it's cute is one person's stress relief is another person's stress. Just shortly as we ended that week, Dr. Etherton sent out a wonderful email of apology stating that it probably wasn't the best idea to give a bunch of high school kids stress balls to pass around, throw at each other as they saw appropriate the final day. So I think for the students, it was a great stress relief. For my staff, maybe not so much. But again, one of those great moments in high school where it's a great idea and it just creates wonderful memories. Really, I have a lot to say about this, but the first thing I'd like to start with is, oh man. Our competitive speech and debate team, we set a goal a few years ago to really improve the quality of that. And you know, I come before you quite often in these principal reports talking about first place, and I am proud to announce yet another one. that we've taken our first place in the regional tournament at Festus High School. The following students have qualified to advance to the final round, and this is the list. Justin Hersher placed second in domestic extemporaneous and first in international extemporaneous. Jordan Catlett placed third in original oratory. Hannah Burton and Sally Griesaber placed second in duet acting. Connor Shilley and Geneva Crump placed fifth in duet acting. Troy Johnson placed third in humorous interpretation. Caitlin App placed sixth in humorous interpretation. Hannah Burton placed fifth in humorous interpretation. And if you know Miss Google, it's no coincidence we have that many students placing in humorous interpretation based on her style and the way she goes about it in the classroom. Absolutely wonderful. Madison Rainey placed seventh in dramatic interpretation. Connor Shilley placed sixth in dramatic interpretation. And the big ones, Brooke Weiler won first in Lincoln Douglas debate. So again, we're taking first in Lincoln Douglas, and which is an incredibly difficult component of the competition. And Justin Hersher and Madison Rainey won first place in public forum debate. So my hat's off to all those students and Miss Google and Miss Uzel for their wonderful continued work on this program and the excellence. And they make it hard for me year in and year out because they keep looking for more opportunities for their students. They keep needing more and needing more, and you just can't say no when you keep getting these kind of results and just images like this. So thanks to all of those. And the last thing I wanted to close with isn't something that we necessarily did yet, but it's something that I want to put first and foremost in people's mind. We sent out invitations this month for the annual Genecvieve Festival that will be held on March 2nd. Of course, this is the talent show that we hosted last year. And this will probably be, it'll go on a rotation after this through the conference. So this will be the last one in a while that we have hosted. We agreed to do that for a multitude of reasons, but one of them is we wanted to give our students an opportunity to travel for this competition as well as be here taking part in it. And I put it up there because I just wanted to remind all of you, if you know people in area schools, please, 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 last year there were 2 of us here. We're looking to grow this. It's an absolutely wonderful event. If you come once, I'm thoroughly convinced you will not come back again. I mean, it is just tremendous. But come, let's make this a great event for our students in this area of the state. That's all I have. Thank you.
Is that going to be a whole day thing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Absolutely.
The final thing under my report is to talk a little bit about Missouri School Board Member Recognition Week. That is an annual event. The actual recognition week is next week, and really it's a time to kind of set aside and recognize school board members all across the state, and in particular the 7 of you that serve the local community as school board members. We know it could be a very difficult job, but also a very rewarding job, often thankless. And of course you have little gift bags at each of your places from the middle school student council. We have in the past had elementary classrooms that adopted each of you, but since we've been out of school, all the adoption papers have not gone through. And so when that happens, then we will get the letters to you at that point. We may save them for the February board meeting, so we can kind of double dip on school board member recognition. But we do appreciate all that you do for the community, for the school district. We appreciate your leadership and support. Really, there's not much else that can be said. Makes my position much easier when I have such a great school board to work for. So, thank you for all you do. We do have some certificates from Missouri School Boards Association that just say recognizing each of you for dedicated leadership in public education and continuing service to the children of the community. So I will give these to you in a minute, but first I want to
Makes it easier for us to people know. That's right.
Thank you, Mr. Crosby.
Thank you, sir.
thank you again for all you do, and that's all my report.
With that, we'll move on to unfinished business, the instructional program presentation, and that person program.
Hi, I'm Emily Curtin. Good evening. I am a member of the high school science department, one of the fantastic five.
Absolutely.
I teach biology and CP biology and anatomy and physiology in my assignment. And I'm going to ask that my friends will stand up and introduce themselves and what they teach also.
I'm Alyssa Schwitt, and I teach CP biology, our co-top biology, and advanced biology. So.
And I am Kyle Schweiss. I teach integrated science, so I teach freshmen all day long.
I'm Kelly Sikowski, and I teach ecology, an 8th grade science class, and then also biology.
I'm Steve Zusman. I teach chemistry, physics, advanced chemistry, and organic chemistry.
All right, and so what I think for you guys here is a little bit of a roadmap as to how we work through our courses at the high school level. We need 3 credits of science to graduate from high school, so you can get them in a variety of ways. The main pathway that we take is integrated sciences freshman year is mandatory. We move on to biology at the sophomore level, and the kids can take a path of biology or they can go to CP biology depending on what they aspire to do in the future. More of a technical education, they would probably go into the biology path and then move into the newly renamed earth science, which was ecology, but in order to meet new Missouri learning standards, we have adjusted the curriculum, which brings me back to this last summer. We actually did rewrite curriculum and revise to meet the new upcoming standards that are more in alignment with the next generation science standards. And kind of the difference is just moving from more of a how this works to actually why does this work and why is this relevant. It's more process-based, so kind of a little bit of a backtrack on that. So anyway, you can move in that pathway. If you go the CP biology route, you can take chemistry, which is recommended for college readiness if you're not going into a science career. The other pathway that we usually encourage our students who are more STEM oriented to go on is the STEM pathway, where you would take chemistry, you would take the advanced chemistry and organic chemistry courses, advanced biology, anatomy and physiology, and eventually physics, and physics is for college credit through SLU also. So we have a lot of kids that typically, if they want to go into a science career, they try to get through all of these upper level elective science courses as well. So they can do it. We have a few that do. We're very proud of them. So that's our path. Do you guys have any questions for myself or my department?
I'm sure it's trying hard.
We do the best we can. Well, we've got great kids, so it makes our job pretty easy too. Thank you. Thank you.
There's no questions, we'll move on to the new business, which is proposed calendar for 2018-19 school.
And I will be proposing the calendar and talking about it, since somebody's retiring. Many names. What you have before you is the first draft of the 2018-2019 calendar. With this draft, we basically take the current calendar for 17-18 and roll it over to 18-19. There are a few changes if you really look closely, and I'm going to point those out for you. The first is the MISHA dead period for activities. And I'll talk more about that in the next agenda item, but basically it's pushed back a week because MISHA has pushed back the first day of fall practice. So I'll explain more why in the next agenda item. The second thing that is different in this draft is you'll see the new teacher PD days and the registration periods for all 4 buildings is actually at the end of July before the dead period starts. we put that there for this draft because we don't feel it's right to do registration during a dead period. Mission dead period, when we're telling families, this is your time, go take a vacation, do whatever you need to do. So I don't know if it'll end up there at the end of July or if it'll be after the dead period on the 6th or 7th, but there may be some adjustments on that. And I'll explain the process why there may be adjustments, and you'll understand it. And then the third thing you'll see is in December. This year for Christmas break, we left on a Wednesday. For this draft, I pushed it back to Friday, December 21st. It just helped balance the semesters. There's 88 days in first semester and there's 86 days in second semester. And that's why I made that adjustment. Plus it helped get us to the 174 days. So that is the calendar, how it looks right now. Moving forward, what we will do is we will put this out on a survey to all employees for comment. We'll give them time to comment. We'll take all of the comments in this draft to our calendar committee. We have a district calendar committee. We'll review the comments. They'll look at the calendar and all the comments, and they'll make adjustments based on those comments and what is best for our kids. I did reach out to all the calendar committee members, and they've all agreed to serve. So just so you know the composition, we have 4 teachers, 1 from each building, a building administrator, a district administrator, representatives from NEA, MSTA, and our classified or ESP group. So everyone has agreed to serve again. So moving forward, we'll get this out to the employees for comment. And then at the February board meeting, we'll bring you a final proposal for adoption. Any questions on what you see there? Any comments?
Just at first glance, do you see anything that does not work?
No, really, the only thing that I saw that didn't work was with the mission dead period, pushing it back a week. It really got into the registration timeframes. But I feel like we can work around this, and we have some ideas. We'll see what the staff says when they see it.
A year ago, when we were talking about calendar for the current year, we discussed whether or not we would be able to continue to put all the makeup days on the end of the year and still finish school before Memorial Day weekend. And this first draft, of course, is just the first draft, but it does allow us to have all makeup days on the end of the calendar and finish before Memorial Day weekend. There may be, as Dr. Fleet mentioned, there may be some adjustments that are made as we go through the process, but certainly there's a lot of opportunity for faculty and staff input, and as we go through the committee process as well, and obviously if we need that input, be sure and share that with us as well. So usually it's we get a lot of good comments when we do the survey, and then the committee really works hard to try to incorporate as many of those as they can into a calendar that best meets the needs of students and meets all the state requirements, because there are significant state requirements that we have to follow in the calendar. So I think it would be, I was a little bit surprised when Dr. Fleet showed me the first draft and had the 10 days that were all in there before Memorial Day. So we'll see what happens as we go through the process.
Just thinking out loud, is there any way, or does any school ever adopt a calendar, like for the next year in advance, past this next year? Just you always have pretty much 2 years of calendar in front of you all the time.
Can you answer that?
Yes, we actually were told this year that Perryville adopted 2 years. They adopted 18, 19, and 19, 20.
They've done that in the past too.
Yeah, usually that's done for one of 2 reasons. They either do that because they have a local CTC here in Technology Center or vocational school, as some of you may remember it being called. Because some other districts then model their calendar after their calendar. There's also some districts that don't have a venue on campus that's large enough for graduation, and so they have to book a significant amount of time in advance at some place, like Farmington Civic Center or MAC or whatever. It's certainly something that you guys can entertain doing in the future, like anything with pros and cons to it. But, I think one thing that we have started doing is we've received a lot of positive comments on that setting the graduation day at the time that we adopted the calendar. I think that's been really good. You're rolling the dice a little bit because you don't know what the weather's going to do. So you could have 4 or 5 days where you don't, where graduation and you still have, a week of school left, or you could have school finish a week before graduation. But still, I think the benefits outweigh the detriment with setting that date.
Okay, any more questions? Then we'll move on to the approval of the initial dead period.
Okay. Traditionally, we have set the initial dead period 9 days prior to the first day of practice. In talking to Mr. Nix about all of this, I've discovered that there is a rule for the winter and spring season that there's a mandatory 7-day no contact period. So setting it where we've traditionally set it, that 9 days before, is in line with how the other sports seasons are handled. So like I said, this year, the first day of practice was on Monday, July 31st. Misha has pushed that back a week. And so next year, the first day of allowable fall practice is Monday, August 6th. So we are proposing that we set the dead period from July 28th through August 5th. Yeah, Mr. Nix would like to.
One thing I would point out too, if you just use the corresponding dates from this year, then you would have your 9-day dead period, then you would have a week, and then you would have practice begin. Well, that week would, in effect, be a dead period as well because of the 7 days that's required before each season. So you would really be extending your dead period to 16 days. They can run concurrently because the 7-day issue is prior to each season, fall, winter, and spring. So the two can run together. And that's kind of what we're proposing, is that they be allowed to run together. It still gives an opportunity for parents to plan vacations and that sort of thing. That gets back to Dr. Fleet's earlier point about moving that registration possibly a week earlier so parents can come in and do those things and it not be interfering with the dead period.
Is that, like Mr. Dent is saying, to have this dead period, 9 days or whatever prior to the first day of practice, or the 9 consecutive days prior? So, like just thinking like in the future with a calendar for 2 years, so that you could implement your dead period 2 years out too.
Well, and we've talked about that. And
I have some things to discuss after we set this one, on how we're gonna handle it moving forward.
Okay.
I have a plan,
All right.
because I know that's important to families, and we need to get that information to them as fast
You
as
could
possible.
just, almost just know.
Okay. So, for this calendar, for the summer of 2018, we ask that you approve the St. Genevieve R2 summer of 2018 mission dead period from Saturday, July 28th to Sunday, August 5th.
I'll move to approve the July 28, 2018 through August 5th, 2018 as a mission dead period for the 2018-19 school year.
Second. The motion and the second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries.
Okay, so I'll share with you before we move on. We traditionally set the mission dead period at the January board meeting, or that summer. But in talking to Mr. Nix, we have that information available now. I can tell you, we can tell you in the summer of 2019 dead period could be. So moving forward, what I plan to do is at the August board meeting, so August 2018, I plan to bring to you the mission dead period for the summer of 2019. And that would be a practice that I would want to put in place, so. And August will approve the dead period for the following summer. That way parents have a lot. Is that what you were looking for, Mr. Boswell? Okay. Yeah, I don't want to do it in July because I don't want to cause confusion. And I don't want to do it before, our current dead period is over. We'll approve the next one.
So basically, the next board meeting, after the current dead period ends, the next board meeting will be the August board meeting, and then you can go ahead and set it for the following meeting.
All right.
Okay, next we have the approval of the MOU to join the Missouri Assessment Partnership.
Yes, you have quite a bit of information in your packet, and we briefly discussed it last month's meeting. But just to kind of recap a little bit, there's a group of school districts across the state of Missouri that are have formed an organization called the Missouri Assessment Partnership. And basically, there are two goals of the Missouri Assessment Partnership. One is to replace MAP in grades 3 through 8 with an assessment system that has formative, interim, summative assessments that promotes students as the first, most important audience. It's an adaptive test engine, so it's the right test at the right time. Focuses on critical thinking. Local control of instructional design would be maintained, and basically it provides an opportunity for us to participate in an assessment program that has some meaning that would guide instruction at the elementary level and middle school level, and also give us more individualized information about students that are taking the assessment. The second goal is really to form a network of school districts and other educational entities like the regional professional development centers, universities, DESE, and anyone else that's in the education realm, where we could share information and ideas, data about assessment practices, and what those can mean for instructional improvement. It's something that's been in the works for a while. This kind of came out of a task force that was put together by the Superintendent's Association that made this recommendation to the State Board of Education back in 2016. We don't feel like that with the current makeup at DESE that they have the revenue or possibly the desire at this point to move forward with some sort of a new testing program. Under the federal law, ESSA, there are options to request a waiver. And so that's really the hope here, is that a significant number of groups, districts representing a significant number of students will go together, design the test, find a vendor that can provide it, pilot the test, and then use that data to submit a waiver under the federal guidelines to move away from the MAP test. We feel like that if we don't take this step, that the MAP test will probably be here for at least another 10 years. Because when you look at the amount of time it takes DESE to go through that process and to put everything together, and plus the money involved. And right now, especially when you look at the budget outlook for the state, I don't think there's going to be any increases in assessment dollars for DESE to go out and try to find a new assessment. So I think the issues that we've had with the assessment not us personally, but statewide, over the last few years are pretty well documented. And this is a step to kind of move, hopefully to cause some change. We know currently there's over 50 districts that are interested in joining this partnership. I expect that number to grow. Those 50 districts include some of the larger districts in the state, but also include very small districts in the state. For example, Springfield R-12, which is the largest public school in the state of Missouri, has indicated that they plan to join. And then there are K districts with 150 students. All told, right now with the students that, or with the districts that have made a verbal commitment, and some have gone through the process of approving the MOU, it appears that we have at least 200,000 students represented by members to the Missouri South Partnership. We think it's really the only step that we can take to move forward and try to find something that testing that's more meaningful for us. So with that, what you have in front of you, you have a memorandum of understanding. You have about a 4 or 5 page, 4-page frequently asked questions sheet. You also have a 1-page communication page, if you will, that highlights it. I would recommend that you would approve the memorandum of understanding so the St. John R2 School District can join the Missouri Assessment Partnership. Do you have any questions? I know we talked a little bit about it, and you've had this information in front of you.
Dr. Lindsay, we say 50 districts, have all public school districts been notified about it already?
Yeah, and sometimes there's a lot of information that comes across the superintendent's desk. We feel like that once districts start joining and it becomes better advertised. I know I've had several districts that have asked questions and wanted information, but they're not quite to the point that we are. I'm on the board of directors of the organization representing Southeast Missouri. There has been interest locally within the conference, but then also the rest of Southeast Missouri. I think it's the right thing for our kids, right thing for the district.
Absolutely. And then reading here, for districts that don't have the ability to join, there's a waiver that they can apply for?
Yeah, they can request a waiver to the board of directors if it's a financial issue for them to join, because there is a membership fee, if you will. And but it's broken down by so much per student. We anticipate for the current year, it's 25 cents per student. And then for the coming year, a maximum of $2 per student. So there is a provision that really large districts can provide some in-kind services. For example, the Springfield R-12 district has 25,000 students approximately. They would also have a variety of staff and facilities and those kinds of things where they could provide some in-kind service. So if they choose to, then they can reach an agreement with the partnership to provide certain levels of in-kind service in lieu of paying a lesser fee.
When you send a waiver to
That will be after this is a long-term commitment, obviously, because you'll have to go through a process of working with vendors to develop the test, and then you'll have to pilot that test in the members, with the member districts, and then when you get the data back from the pilot, that's when you can go seek the waiver. That's probably a 2 or 3 year process.
So it probably wouldn't be, I know things may be in waiting at DESI right now, but this wouldn't be something we would submit as part of MSIP 6, anything like that.
No, and I really don't I mean, of course, right now, the state board can't function because they only have three members technically on the board since the governor withdrew and then reappointed during the legislative session. So I really don't think MSIP 6 is very high on the priority list of the State Board of Education.
Any questions or comments? If not, we'll move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
Move to approve the memorandum of understanding with the Missouri Assessment Partnership and authorize the superintendent to execute the necessary documents for membership.
Second. I have a motion and a second, all in favor, say
Aye.
aye. Opposed? Okay, Mr. McDaniel.
Y'all ready for this? Thank you, teacher. Okay. I move that the Board of Education holds a closed meeting with closed record and closed vote following the regular open meeting on February 20th, 2018 to be held in the R.W. Thomas Library, 715 Washington Street, St. Genevieve, Missouri, for the purpose of discussing and voting upon the following items of business: legal action, causes of action, or litigation, lease, purchase, or sale of real estate, hiring, firing, disciplining, or promoting particular employees, proceedings involving the mental or physical health of identifiable individuals, scholastic probation, expulsion, or graduation of identifiable individuals, testing and examination materials, welfare cases of identifiable individuals, preparation for negotiation with employee groups, software codes for electronic data processing and documentation thereof, specification for competitive bidding until approved or published, sealed bids and related documents until the bids are open, sealed proposals and related documents until all proposals are rejected, or any documents related to a negotiated contract until the contract is executed. Individually identifiable personnel records, performance ratings, or records pertaining to employees or applicants for employment. Records protected from disclosure by law. Scientific and technological innovations in which the owner has a proprietary interest. Records relating to municipal hotlines established for the reporting of abuse and wrongdoing. Confidential and privileged communication with an auditor. Operational guidelines, policies, and specific response plans for preventing or responding to a critical incident. Existing or proposed security systems and structural plans of district property. The portion of a record that identifies security systems or access codes. Records that identify and would allow unauthorized access to or unlawful disruption of the configuration of components or the operation of a computer, computer system, computer network, or telecommunications network. Credit card numbers, personal identification numbers, digital certificates, physical and virtual keys, access codes or authorization codes that are used to protect electronic transactions. I further move that notice of this meeting and this tentative agenda be posted as required by law.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Roll call. Eric Bosler.
Yes.
David Bova.
Yes.
John Hook.
Yes.
Jim Kirchner.
Yes.
Harry McDaniel, yes. Martha Reese.
Yes.
Richard Ruloff.
Yes.
Motion carried 7-0.
Move to go to closed session with a closed record and a closed vote after a short break.
I have a motion and a second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
First one is